All right, we're recording. Anything you say will be broadcasted live to at least 14 people. So just be careful what you say. Or not.
So God
It's
keeps
up
for
to you.
Tourette's to come in.
I was told that you can't go wrong with turquoise and silver. So this is turquoise green was on the label. It tells me that it's probably dyed howlite or jasper, probably howlite because of the pattern. But it's cool. Greens and blues and silvers are popular. And we're going to make a ring. And the first thing we do is cut enough wire. So 14 to 20 inches. I like to give myself a lot of room, so I got about 20 inches here. That is going to be 50 centimeters. So I think, no. Anyway, it's about 20 inches, but you can use 14. I have 18 gauge silver. I found with rings you want to use at least a 20 gauge or larger for support. But I did this with 26 gauge and just wrapped it around a bunch of times, so that was really cool. And that's a tiger's eye. So 18, 20 gauge if you're comfortable with 16 gauge. It's going to be a little harder to work with, but you can do it, right? You're amazing. We come halfway, right? So about 10 inches in. Halfway is good. And the first thing we do is crimp and crimp. So get it right up there tight and crimp like that. I got a tripod in my way because my cousin is so kind enough to have the thing. I'm gonna get my little chain nose pliers. Come in handy because I can't quite. We want this to be like really tight, right? So just do that and get it tight, right? And 90 degrees and 90 degrees, and try to make it so it doesn't hurt. Now this is 18 gauge wire, which is I'm used to using it with 20 gauge. So like I said, it's a little bit thicker, a little harder to work with, but we want something like this, right? And what I like to do is we bend it a little past 90 degrees and try to get it to the center. All right, and then we get to decide where we go from here. That's the fun part, right? We can continue wrapping, and I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So you want to hold this really, really tight. Hold your bead tight, and then pull from a distance. Pull around, pull around, pull around. Flip it. Okay, now I got both strings going kind of the same way. And what I'm paying attention to here is that piece, right? I'm putting that on top of this other one, and I'm making it go kind of the same way. And then we can take this other guy or lady, whatever. We don't need to assign genders to inanimate objects.
Very PC of you.
Or people, for that matter. But since on this side I went over, right? We went over that little loop. On this side we're gonna come under, right? To kind of give it that level and let the stone set. And again, I pull from a distance and pull it tight and tight. And since this one's under, that one's over. The goal there is to kind of hide that little there's going to be like a little gap there, and we want to hide that in our finished product. So if that's important to you, make them kind of even, and then you can see how one side sits above the other and they're kind of even, and so our finished product is going to be something along that line. And you pull it tight, grab the bead and pull it straight, and then grab the bead and pull it straight, and then we have our stone is set. Okay, and there's a couple things we can do from here. Like one goal I have is to kind of hide that little lip right there that we talked about. I can take this over here and bring it around to the other side and bring it over, and then make both of our both of our strings going the same way. So there's options, and you do what you like, the way that you want. So you don't have to be exact, but make sure it's tight. You know, you want that set in there. Your stone is gonna spin, which is gonna be kind of cool in the finished product anyway. And then there's a spot usually where it sets and it won't spin, but when you put it on and take it off, it's gonna spin, and that's wire wrapping and beads. And what I'm gonna do is have these go opposite directions this way. So it goes like that, right? And now, this guy here, I think it was $3.99 or $2.99 at Joann's. I bit the bullet on a 60% off sale, and then applied a 20% off coupon, and went all out on that couple dollars that it cost to get the plastic ring mandrel. There are step mandrels available, and we finally found a source for those in a Facebook group that I'm a part of, and we'll talk about that at another time. But you want a ring mandrel, whether it's steel or stepped or graduated and plastic. They're going to work for your purposes. Some people take table legs or whatever and make their own mandrels. And we're going to make a size 6. I like size 6. And what's handy about this is this groove. Now, you don't need it, and you don't have to use it, but it allows your stone to kind of set in that groove and bring the wires around like so. So once you got it to where you want, you do the size, and we're gonna go to, thanks Kelly. Haha, Matt, eat your heart out. I got somebody to focus my camera for me. So I want to do a size 6, and what I like to do, since remember how we're kind of on opposite ends of that stone, I'm going to put that bead somewhere nearby, okay, somewhere near size 6, and I'm going to take this side and wrap it around at the 6 1/4 mark, okay, and I'm going to take the other one, I'm going to wrap it around at the 5 3/4 mark, like that. And what's really, really important is that you hold it tight, press your bead down into that groove. And again, you got to work this and hold it really tight to where you want your size to be. Otherwise, it'll be too loose or too tight for whoever you're trying to make it for, or it won't turn out the way you planned, which is often the case. Don't worry, there's no, if it turns out to be a size 5 1/2, that's what we get. All right, but we do our best to kind of make it how we want and hope for the best. But the key here is holding it tight. And since we're using 18 gauge, it's more sturdy. 2 wraps is going to provide plenty of strength. And so you can get away with using 14 or 16 inches instead of 20, because you don't have to wrap it around a 3rd or 4th time. I like to wrap it around 3rd and 4th times, which is why I use 20. I think it provides more structure, but some people think that the bulkier rings are more masculine, and they don't want a masculine ring on their fingers, so you have to be mindful of other people's opinions when you're trying to make things that other people might like. So I pulled and pulled and pulled and squeezed and squeezed and squeezed, and I got up to a size 7 without too much. And what happens as we continue working, it might shrink down in size. So again, I'm going to just keep pulling and hope for the best, right? That's the best we can do. Just do the best we can to keep it where we want it to be. Kind of check underneath. Make sure your stone's kind of staying in that groove, okay? Be mindful of every single thing. You're working in 3 different dimensions here. And you want everything to kind of be as best as you can make it. Perfection is not the goal. If perfection is your goal, you're going to have a hard time. because you have to listen to the wire and talk to the wire, and sometimes you have to force the wire to do what you want, and other times you have to let the wire do what it wants. And you're going to figure that out on your own. I can't teach you that. You have to do this. Alright, so it's 6 to 6.5 when I'm doing this gently. I'm not pulling it down. And as we work, we're going to find, as we twist and turn and pull, we're going to shrink a little bit. So right now it's a size 7. I'm going to pull it off. Alright, we're going to set our mandrel aside because we're going to still need that. And let's take a look at the top of our stone. Alright, so our structure is there. It's very sturdy. Be careful, because if I take this and I'm trying to pull this wire a certain way, I got to be careful not to bend this out of shape. You can always fix it on your mandrel later, but you only have so many chances before you start to work hard in the metal, which makes it difficult to manipulate, or you'll just straight up snap it in places you don't want and ruin your whole piece. And that's fine if that happens. You just start again. And if you get frustrated, walk away, do the dishes, watch your favorite TV show, take the dog for a walk, or pet your cat, or feed your goldfish, or something else enjoyable. Because if you're not having fun, take a break. All right? So I like the way that this is all looking. And remember that little guy right there we talked about earlier? We wrapped around. I want to bring it up above that. So what I might do is very gently pull this wire out and go ahead and put it. I'm going to try to put it underneath there. I got a tripod in the way. And we're going to do our best to kind of hide that little lip, but putting it in and shaping it there. And now we're going to just come around the top on both sides the same way we did the first time around. And we're trying to follow that shape and see what happened. It got messed up a little bit, but I didn't squeeze it or crease it or anything else like that. So we're just kind of getting an idea of where we want to go next. Okay? I have an idea where I want to go, and the wire has its own opinion. So put it back on the mandrel.
Just like everyone else these days.
Which makes the world such an enjoyable place to be. So we're back on the mandrel, and I got to squeeze. I kind of got the wires going over the top how I want them. And see that guy popping out? It's okay. And that's kind of what misshaped our wire. I wasn't gentle enough to pull that above the other side and make it how I want. Alright, but that's kind of how I want it to look. So I'm going to keep checking my size, and I'm back at 6, right? I'm going to pull it tight, pull it tight. I'm going to pull it in the direction that makes the sense, because I'm going to come around the other side now. What we're going to do on this side is spin it this way, right? We're going to walk them around. And if you pull from a distance, don't try to move it from here, because you'll fold it. If you come back here and kind of turn it, you're going to get a nice smooth kind of that loopy shape that you want. If you come in here and you try to manipulate it, you'll end up with a fold. And if that's what you want, that's fine, but that's not what I want. So just be mindful of what you're doing the whole time, because if it doesn't turn out the way you want, you're still going to come out with something really awesome that people love. So just keep moving it until it does something that you like, and then reevaluate where you want it to go, right? Now, oftentimes you'll see we can weave that right. I can bring this wire underneath there and keep turning it. But right now, I think that I'm where I kind of want to be. And we're going back to our shape again, where one wire goes that way and one wire goes that way. So that's why when we start our ring and we have the wires going in a different direction, or the same direction, or however you have it set up at the beginning, It's going to affect the whole way your design works out. And you always want to go back to your starting point every time you make a wrap, because that's going to set that stone in the place how you want it and allow you to make other creative, cool designs and wrap around. All right, so we're at a size 7 again, and we're just going to be happy with where it's at right now. So I have enough wire where I can come around again, and you don't have to, but I'm gonna, right? Because that's where I think it's gonna look nice. So don't put too much thought into how you want it to the point where you give up. Get it close enough to how you want it to be. And go with it. And here, I saw an opportunity to kind of fold it under that other wire. Focus. Focus. There we go. We did it. Thanks, Kelly.
No problem.
Everybody should hire their own camera operator.
I'm being
for
paid,
these.
what?
Oh, no. Call it in kind. In kind. So now our wires are together going the same way. Now I'm going to look at it and think about it. And somehow I got it bigger than the size. Now it says 7.5. Not sure how that happened.
Oh yeah, and where's your tattoo? Oh, I have your tattoo.
Well, here we're going to look all around. We're going to press.
Yeah.
Now, I mentioned work hardening before. And one way to make sure your stone is set is to go ahead and work harden your wire on purpose. So right now what I'm doing is pressing down on the stone, and that whole, every piece of wire that's wrapped around that stone, that metal's hardening and becoming more firm and setting your stone in a more stable way. All right, and I think I'm just going to keep going, and I'm going to come down here the same way we did on that with that other wire. With this wire, we came around and put it under so that it continued around. I'm going to do the same here because I saw this little gap by looking at what I was doing. I saw this little gap there, and I'm going to go ahead and come under that last wire again like that, so it closes that gap and hides it. And then we're back to our wires kind of going opposite ways. Now with this wire, if I try to wrap it anymore, that little guy right there is going to become more pronounced, right? And I want my curves to kind of be smooth. What did I do?
You kept the light out.
I want my curves to be smooth, so I don't want to make that any more accented than it is. Right? So don't knock your tripod down with your ring mandrel if you're trying to do videos. But I'm happy with that, so I'm gonna pull that straight out the way we had it from the beginning. I'm happy with that one, so I'm gonna pull it straight out again, because we have some options to work with again. So every time you do a twirl, look at what you got and kind of see where you want to go next. Okay? And there's other ways to do that. If we continued like kind of weaving and putting them under and over and under and over, you kind of get this cool little rose pattern. Which is where I would use 22 gauge rather than 18 gauge, because it's just a little too thick of a wire to kind of do intricate details on a ring, or at least a stone this size. And we're coming to around what you're going to find once we close these is it's going to be a smaller size, because we're going to be wrapping the wire underneath on both sides to secure that shape, right? So this wire is going to come around again and through there, and this wire is going to come around again and through there. And before I go any further, that's going to bring it down to maybe a 6.5. Maybe the final product is going to be probably 6.5 or 6 3/4, somewhere in there, I guess. But I don't know for sure. It could do something entirely different. But I always try to make them somewhere between 5 and 8. 5 is really difficult for me, and 8 tends to be, I don't know, 8 and 9 fits my fingers. And I'm looking at it again. And again, I'm pressing down on the stone. That's going to work hard in it and further set that stone and keep it where it's going to be. And hopefully that works out for me, right? And so far, I think that we're doing good. And sometimes, for some reason, now at this time I can't tighten this anymore because we're wrapped and we've set it. And for some reason, when I push down on these to work hard on that and set that stone where I want it and keep the wire where it is, that made it larger. And I'm not sure why, but that's the fun part. That's what happens. And I'm going to go with the design that I like. Observe. Uh-oh.
Just throw that anywhere.
I'd call it technical difficulties, but we're going to go with this design there because I just like how pretty and elegant it is.
I was trying to get the other ones out of the way.
And so I'm going to attempt to make that happen with this this one. So let's see, can we get back in the tripod without messing everything up? We can.
There you go. It's spring loaded.
My buttons are on the side of my phone, so what happens is I'll turn the phone off and we'll stop recording if I don't. So now that I'm not going to knock over the tripod with the mandrel, and I have my wire pressed down where I want it, and I have my little lips hidden so that if you don't like that kind of thing, it doesn't bother you. And to get it through, we're gonna come out, right? We got to shape our wire into like a semicircle, okay? Because we want to avoid kinks in our wire. We don't want to fold it. So we kind of make this loopy-loop, right? And then we can put it through there. I come in through what's right now the top, right? So we're coming around just like that. Put it through there and make sure it comes out where you want it. There's other designs where you can put it out through the middle like this and do some cool stuff, but I'm not doing that. I'm going to come around all the way through to the back or underneath, depending on your regional colloquialisms. And we're going to come around and stay on this side. Right, we came out from that way, we went under, we're going to stay on the outside. We're not going to add any more wire on the stone side. So in the same way we made our semicircle, you don't want to pull taut. So what happens is, see this? That's fine. We try not to make that into a kink, right? Because if you kink your hose, you can unkink it and the water flows. If you kink this, it becomes a permanent part of the shape. And if that happens to you, don't get frustrated. Work with it. See what happens if you keep messing with it or leave it the way it is. It might turn out really cool and somebody's going to love it, I guarantee. So remember that. If you mess up on your goal of how you want the piece to be, it's going to turn out really, really super cool whether you like it or not. And in this case, I have this little gap going on here that I kind of like. The other one, I had it coming in right here and closing that loop, but I think I'm going to go ahead and let the wire tell me what to do in that case and leave that little kind of triangle gap because what I can do next, now what we're doing is making this tight. We're securing our band, right? So that's our focus here, is securing the band. But if you can keep manipulating it and be gentle and keep it looped and curved and not kinked, you're going to have a really cool design that you're going to like a lot, I guarantee. And so we're working with our loop again. We can come around here, and I'm going to come through one more time, and what's going to happen is I'll show you. I'm going to try and fold over and make an X shape right there, and you'll see why in a minute. A, I think it's going to make a cool design, and B, we want the wire. When we come in here, I'm going to show you what we do next. Alright, now here's the part. See that? You can use your fingernail and move it around. You can manipulate it, but be mindful not to kink it or fold it or work hard on it too much. And too much is relative until it snaps. Then you have to start over. Now, see how that wire goes underneath there and we're pulling it tight? What happens is, once we got that underneath there and tight, we'll put it back on our mandrel how we like, and you'll see that we've shrunk to a size 6. If I mess with it a little bit, we're still at a size 7, but when I close the other side, the tightening of it and the added material underneath it are going to affect the overall size of your ring. And you'll notice what we worked so hard to set is kind of coming loose, and that's okay. All right, because we did that work earlier to kind of keep that wire in the shape that we wanted by work hardening it on purpose. So don't worry too much about that. Just be mindful of that, those little changes that will occur as you continue to work, okay? Because everything you do on one side of the wire is going to affect the other. And even tightening this, even tightening that is going to bring these closer together and make the ring smaller. So we started, once we had everything wrapped and before we went and started securing it in place, we had a 7.5, and now we're down to 6.5, maybe 7. And all I'm doing here is kind of shaping it. We didn't end up necessarily with an X, and that's okay. I can use my fingernail to kind of put it where I want it. And then I'm going to take this loop here. If we look at our plane, right, where our work surface is, this tabletop here, and I look at this, I'm going to take and I'm going to pull this side that way, and I'm going to push this side that way. So we're going to kind of fold it and see what happens. Okay. So folded it, it secured it, it put the wire where I want it. And just be mindful of how everything looks, because what we're doing here, we want to leave a little bit right about there is good. I like that. I want it right at that lip that we hid from the front. Right there. We're going to end up cutting and tucking that end inside of there so that we don't snag your clothing or cut your finger. You should not have sharp jewelry, you guys. People are putting this on their bodies, and I mean, if that's your thing, go ahead, use at your own risk, right? Some people like danger, so if you have a sharp end pointing out, let them know. You'll get cut, and they might like that, but I don't like that, so I don't want that to be that way. If somebody requests it, I'll have them sign a waiver.
Before I sell this to you, you have to sign this waiver.
You'll get cut. All right, so this side is how I want it to be. That looks really neat to me, and I have it in the general shape I want. I'm not going to worry about this right now other than to get it out of my way, because I might need to reshape it and work with it a little bit more later. I don't want to. You can always cut things shorter, but you can't add it back unless you want to get into the soldering, and then I don't know why you'd want to create so much work for yourself, but if that's your thing, go for it. And so we're going to do the same thing to this side, except we're coming out from the stone on this side, and we're going to come under on this side again. Continuously, I'm being mindful of our where our stone is and that shape, because we're not going to be moving this around anymore. We're not going to be trying to do any more spooling or shaping, so you can work hard on that and not worry about it snapping, because that's just where it's going to be. That's the stone is set, that's the shape. We're just securing the ring so that you can wear it. And so the same as the other side, I'm gonna do a loopy loop, okay? And I did that on purpose so you could see how I kind of, if I start here and move and start here and move and start here and move, I get these little kind of things that aren't gonna show up, but I was able to give you an example. So I'm gonna come back here and around, and I'm gonna try to make a semicircle. Now, the way the wire was spooled, it's wanting to turn that way, and I need it to turn this way, so we're arguing right now, and it's gonna listen to me in this step of the process. So we got it through, coming out the back again, and I'm taking my time so you guys can see. This usually goes a little bit quicker, but I want you to know, I want you to see what's going on. Take your time, especially if you haven't done it before. If you have done it before, but you learned something new, let me know in the comments. I guess that's a thing that people do. If you think my stuff is terrible, let me know in the comments. Somebody else will argue with you, I'm sure. I'm not going to read them, promise. Last time we did the X, right, we came across this way, so we're going to do that again. Under. And, whoops, I didn't even see I missed that. I wanted to go through and I missed it completely and thought I knew what I was doing, because I'm such an expert at everything and I always do everything right and I never make a mistake. She knows better. And so last time we came that direction to kind of get to that lip, and this time we're going to come to this direction underneath, so we got this cool little like equal sign. And let's see, where am I going? See, it's doing something weird on me. It didn't get tight enough to on the side that I wanted. So now I have to make sure it's not going to do something I don't like at all. So we got that same kind of circle. See how it's a different shape than the other side? That's going to happen. You got to do your best to make it the way you want and match it how you like it. If perfection is your game, get a machine to do it for you, because you can program them and make it do the same thing every single time, and then you don't have a handmade piece of jewelry, and maybe it's easier, faster, efficient, and cheaper, and then you can charge 100% markup and do business like some of those giant corporations. I heard if I name names I might get sued, so I'm not going to. Maybe I will get sued, but I could win. But I don't feel like going through the trouble. I would rather make rings. Alright. So we got it kind of the same way, and then I folded it in the same way I did the other side. I took that one and bent it back and took the top and bent it forward so it came out, and then I did the same here. I made it tight as I could. Everything's secure. Everything is in the general finished process. I'm using my fingers and I'm pulling tight and I'm checking the shape. That's why we got a ring mandrel. That held its shape really good, so if we look, it held its shape really good. It's still a good circle. Let's see the size that we're at now. Well, I'm at 5.5, but it's nothing to get it there. And then we can, on our mandrel, we can kind of keep working on it, right? And we know what size it's going to be. And everything is tied, secure. Everything's there the way I want it. I can push that stone inside that groove, and I can push down on the wire. And that's going to tighten everything up. And it's going to keep it at a 6.5 is what we ended up with. That's what size we're going to end. And we started at 6. In working, we ended up somewhere around 7.5, and in finishing, we're down to a 6.5. All right, so now we got to do something with this wire, and there's a couple different options.
There's this one.
We're trying to match this style that I did in a slightly different way. So we're going to have one up and one down, and then when we go underneath, what we got to do is tuck those sharp edges in those little places that we got to hide our sharp edges in. Right? So that's the kind of style that I'm shooting for. I don't think it's going to end up exactly the same. This one I used 20 gauge, and I was able to wrap it around 4 times. At some point I crossed it, which allowed me to do this. But, and it's more filled on the sides. So the 18 gauge works a little bit different than the 20 gauge, and you end up with a slightly different result while shooting for the same kind of pattern. So we just do the best we can. And since I got it in that groove, I'm going to continue work hardening where the stone is set, and that's going to keep that stone right where I want it, and it's going to keep the size at 6.5, which is close enough to where I would like it. It won't fit Kelly's ring finger because she wears a size 6, but I can try another one if she ends up wanting this. And I know to start at maybe a 5.5 in order to get an end result of 6 inches, or a size 6 ring.
6 inches. What big do you think my
Sigh.
finger is? Holy
I was
shit.
gonna say.
If your fingers are 6 inches in diameter, there's nothing wrong with that. Don't
your
beat
bumps.
yourself up. There might be some kind of
Roger coming in with PC.
finger wrestling, thumb wrestling championship that you could get involved in and win some money and buy some jewelry. And I'll make you a size 26 ring to put on your
How do you
pinky
know it's their
finger.
thumb that's 6 inches?
Huh?
How do you know it's their thumb? That would be 6 inches.
It could be their pinky.
Right.
Could be.
We don't judge, guys. Everything's fine. It's cool. If you got
Roger,
26-inch pythons for thumbs, call Hulk Hogan and tell him you got him beat. Ask him what he thinks about that.
make a this guy meme.
Yeah. What this guy mean?
Yeah.
If you have 26-inch diameter pinkies, post that in the comment. I would like to see that. All right. So we got it the size we want. We got a general shape that we want. We got the pretty little design that I like. And there's another thing that I do. I was trying to find something. Yours. So we don't assign genders to inanimate objects or people in my life, at least. But so we can end it with little swirls and loops on the outside, a little pretty flower design. Or we can hide our sharp edges inside. And like I said, my goal on this particular design was to hide my sharp edges underneath and not do the little flowery design. But I might anyway. So let me take some time to reevaluate, because I might want to take this loop and kind of cover that little hole with a flower, right? I could do that. I could leave it with our little X pattern. that I like. And
Oh, she says, oh, here you go.
another thing we can do, I can come back around and continue. I could take this and cross it this way because I have enough, right? We started with 20 inches instead of 14 or 16, so I got some room to play and I got some time to think about it. I don't know how much time you have to watch this video, but I have some time to think about which way I want to go with that. What do you think, Kelly?
What? I'm sorry. I was.
Do I
looking at
do I do the like loop-de-loop circle on the outside like this and kind of fill in that hole,
the
or do I tuck them underneath and kind of make it up and down like this? Because at this point I have the option to decide, right? My goal was something similar to this. We have the option to make a little rose petal flower thing on the outside on each side to kind of fill in those holes.
Is this an option?
That was something I would consider is coming over again. So taking this and coming back around and through, and that would fill it in, and I could still come in and tuck them into the edges, and we'll end up more with the kind of funky little kind of. I like the way that the light plays off of that too. So, and it would fill in that circle. I don't know how concerned I am with filling in that circle. I could finish right now, or not. I could keep going.
Well, it sounds like a creator's dilemma.
Yeah, well, that's why I asked your opinion, and you haven't given me one other than that.
Well, hey, I said, could you do this?
I could, and that was the thought. I think that's her opinion. That requires more work, and I'm gonna do it. Oh, that one's abalone, though. By the way, I love the color play on that. Abalone is really awesome, you guys.
I'm a sucker for the sandstone. The galaxy stone.
Yeah, where's the galaxy stone? Show
Just
that
look at
one.
that sparkle.
These sparkles. Blue sandstone, and well, some of that's a reflection of the light, but you can see the little sparkles like glitter inside the stone. I'm told that it's made with little copper particles inside of a something else, but I don't know. It's and the person who told me that called it something other than sandstone. But take that for what it's worth. We like the sparkles. I love sparkles. You can never have too much sparkles, you guys. I think that we're gonna I'm gonna keep this one simple. I think simple is elegant, and I think we're gonna go ahead and be done with wrapping and looping. We have to finish it now. I'm not gonna do that, Kelly.
No, it was the abalone one that I was saying.
Oh,
Which
yeah.
is also, you said, more difficult. And then you said you're going to do it, now you said you're not going to do it. So
Right.
Make up your mind, Raj.
I think I did make up my mind. I'm not going to continue. If I had the 20 gauge, I might continue, because you can see the 20 gauge, we're wrapped around 4 or 5 times, and on this one we're wrapped around twice. So since I used a higher gauge to have a more stable, sturdy product without having to wrap it too many times, I'm going to stick with that idea and not wrap it more. I think I'm gonna keep it simple. So we're back underneath. Okay, that's the inside of the stone. I'm gonna bring it over here somewhere, just to kind of shape it right, and give us an idea of where we want to tuck it. Because we have all that room. I might end up tucking that side over there, and I might end up tucking that side over there, over here. And that's what we have to decide, and we have to give ourselves enough room to do that. So I'm going to take a minute to look at what I'm doing. And I know that guy here, that can tuck under there just nicely. And the same on this side. We're gonna tuck it in somewhere in there. And the way to do that is to study your piece and get an idea of where it's going to fall, and then you have to do the soul-wrenching, gut-punching, nerve-wracking step of deciding where to cut it. And on this piece, I want that to fall somewhere in there. Somewhere in there. And I think that if I'm gonna cut it right here because that leaves me enough where if it doesn't quite fit, I can cut it off more. If I cut off too little and not have enough, well, that's the nerve-wracking part. The cool thing about flush cutters, guys, is that you can get your tool into that little kind of crevice there and cut it exactly where you want it and on a certain angle, right? Like if I wanted to do this, it's a flush cutter. I can make the end shaped the way I want. And if I do that right there, all right, this is where you decide and give yourself enough room. So that's how much, right? And then we take our chain nose, and you want to be careful. And the way to prevent slipping is to grip it really super tight. The harder you grip the end, you're not going to slip. Slipping will mar that color coating on the copper, expose your copper, and then your copper will tarnish. And since this is the inside underneath the piece, it's not going to be visible. So again, do your best. I'm going to grab that, squeeze really, really tight, and I'm just going to, oh, see, I slipped right off. I got to come in a little bit more, squeeze really, really tight, and I'm going to turn it. I'm going to kind of shape it the same way we did when we came underneath. All right, and see how I tuck that in there? If I come around, grab it again, and continue that kind of motion, we make a little hook, and we shove it in there, right? Just shove it in there. I think I may have bit off a little more than I could chew, but I don't know yet. Maybe it's fine. But the idea is to tuck our edges. So I left myself enough to cut again if I needed to, and I think that I need to. And I'm going to cut it right on that fold because now I got from this curve to here is maybe a centimeter, half inch, 1/3 of an inch, maybe. But the important part is to take that little sharp end and do what you have to hide that thing and tuck it and make sure that it's never going to come out. All right. And here you can see I'm not squeezing. I'm just kind of using that tool and I'm pushing. Alright, so I made that curve, now I'm pushing it in there, I'm pushing it in there, pushing it in there, and check it. Make sure that's in there. And you can even see through that little gap where the end of our thing is. And I'm going to see if I can't come in a little more. Here's where I'm going to grab that wire, make sure you're on the right wires before you go squeezing everything out of shape. And this is where you're also tightening the piece, so it might end up being a size 6 at the end anyway. Last time we tested it, it was a size 6.5, right? But we're tightening that wire again, and anything can happen. I'm actually putting way more time into this than normal because I want you guys to be able to see. Tucking it in, and then I'm going to take this and I'm going to just fold it back down, right? Fold it back down. Fold it back down. Now, if you're scared to scratch it and mar your wire, we have these available. These are $9.99 retail price. If you get a sale and use a coupon, you can get them for like $5 maybe. But they're nylon coated flat nose pliers, and I can take what I just did, take that whole shape right there, right, and I can flatten that out now. Once I do that, I did that really quick, really gently, really nice. I felt it move, and that was enough. I didn't mean to be quick about it. I just didn't want to do it anymore. And what happened is I see that sharp end came out when I did that. And that's why we do that and look every time. And it also gave me some more room to work with to where I can continue squeezing that in there. And now, everything is secure. And our sharp edges are hidden. Alright? Now, that's in there. That's not coming out. If you can feel it. What's nice about the chain nose is you can get in there and grab that wire and keep turning it. You can push it and manipulate it. It's very important to take your time. You want your sharp edges hidden, never to come out, and you want to be careful not to mar your wire. So if you find yourself taking a lot of time on that part, making sure that your jewelry isn't going to come apart or hurt somebody, that's really important. So take your time to do that. And don't ever think that it's too much time. Because the last thing you want is somebody come back and say, so I had to go and get a bunch of stitches because the ring that I gave you money for cut me. Unless they signed a waiver first. In which case, have that waiver available and remind them that they agreed to let your jewelry cut them. If you live on the edge like that, go for it. Some people like that. Alright?
The nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, best sleep with a cold medicine.
And one way to tell is use your own finger. Alright, move it around. That's hidden underneath that curve right there. It's tucked in behind that. If we look at it from the side, that wire is good and tucked up inside of there, right? It's unlikely to come out. I'm going to do one little thing with my chain nose again. I'm going to come in and grab. And I'm going to just be careful where you're doing it, and I'm going to press. Very gently, very lightly. As soon as it moves, I'm going to let go and reevaluate. Okay. And so there's where we did a kink on purpose. We kinked that very, very carefully, very, very gently, and that's going to make sure that that piece stays where it is. It's not going to come out. It's very smooth. There's no sharp edges. And then we do that again to the other side, right? And last time I came right to the edge. I used my flush cutters. I cut it flush right with the inside. Right? I came in and gave myself enough room to cut twice. Here we are again. We're going to observe our sharp end. See where we're at. And we're gonna tuck it in under there. I'm gonna see if I can't get it in on this side, but it might end up going in underneath there. So take our nose, and based on what I learned on the last one, I think we're gonna end up going through there and tucking it up into there. Let's see, I'm gonna pull. Squeeze it tight. Give it a curve. See where it goes. All right, come through there with your chain nose. Give it a good turn in there. Maybe come over here. See how far we can get that up into there. And all I did was kind of flatten that out and leave that sharp end exposed. So all that piece that I just scuffed up and everything else, I'm gonna take that and just get rid of it. Make sure that you're only cutting the wire that you want to cut. Otherwise, you cut the ring apart and we have to start all over again. So always make sure you're on the right wire. It can be a bit tricky sometimes.
I'm really sorry if I've startled you or
We're gonna
anything.
turn.
Just change your password and.
Are you just like a hacker? How does this work?
I'm just a hacker. I'm with the anonymous Calgary hive mind in Canada, and you'll be fine.
That's what they told us before they threatened to kill me.
Yeah. All right, Andy is joining us now via Polycom.
Well
His
then.
hacker, Hank, is joining us via Skype. Andy, let me start with you. How surprised were you when your camera started talking to you?
I was totally shocked. I mean, it was something that I would never expect. You know, you buy these things to protect yourself and you think that it's for the better good, but obviously it didn't turn out to be that way for me.
Hank, you're the one that was on the other end with the mask on, saying what you were saying to him at the time, but you agreed to take the mask off for us.
So we can see there.
And talk about this.
I wonder if we can get it focused enough.
What was your agenda? What
There's
was
the end of my
about?
wire.
Why?
Sometimes you can see the copper
What I
tip
was
of it.
doing the day that I connected to Andy's camera was going through cameras that were attached to businesses, so something that's a physical business with a store. And
I'm going to take
it
the
was
same
running
as we
that
did on the other side, grab just the wire I want, and I'm going to kink it
reuse
right
passwords.
there.
Why is this on your list of things to do?
I've loved computers since I was really little. Never really considered hacking a bad thing, especially warning people about it.
Are you really a Canadian researcher?
I guess I'd like to call myself an independent security researcher. I look into bug bounties and vulnerabilities every day. This wasn't something that was meant to get as big as it did. I guess you could say best case scenario, because now something might actually be done about making two-factor authentication a little easier to enable.
Andy, how do you feel about Hank at this point?
I could totally understand where he came from. I mean, keep in mind, it was nothing that I would ever expect. Again, you buy these cameras with the full intention of having the security, but I shut the camera off and decided that it's never anything I ever want to have in my home again.
Do you still think that Hank is a violator?
No. What I was safe with was knowing that he came forward to me, explained where he was coming from, whereas the other guests on your show may not have had that type of situation.
Well, Hank, I'll ask you. You know, Brooklyn and Eddie are here, and they were contacted, and this person told them they were a Canadian researcher, and then ultimately threatened to kill her. You don't do that.
All right, I think I got that where I want it. I got to test it, put it on my finger, move it all around, get in there. All right, we kinked it.
And that kid's an idiot.
That one's tucked in there really good. This one's tucked up in there really good.
Kevin, any comment or question to Hank that would help us understand more about?
If you're using it to punch people in the nose or not brass knuckles, that might come apart. If you're just wearing it on your finger like you do, instead of using them as a pair of shoes, that's going to be secure. That's going to stay where it's at. It's going to be beautiful. Somebody's going to love it.
I'll start by saying
And you can do that too. And I hope you enjoyed. There's a finished product. And we'll go ahead and
this was done
find a place for it. We could put that right there.
But you learn from it.
Da da da.
So obviously you're not going to be doing the same thing again.
I'll show you how to do the woven ones another day.
I won't be doing this anymore.
I really like how that turned out.
Thank you both for talking
That one's
about
really
this.
pretty,
And Hank,
too.
I really appreciate you coming in.
Yeah,
and letting
that
us
one
some
happened. I
insight.
ended up with a little loop there because it was wrapped around and I pulled it too tight and I was like, oh, I guess I have to do a circle on the front of the stone now. So it's one of those things that didn't turn out the way I wanted, and Kelly likes it. So that's how things work. Things you don't like, other people do. Some things you don't like, other, whatever. Doesn't always turn out as planned, but we always get something really cool. And that's it. Oh, our size. We got to check our size again, right? See what happens after we did all that fussing. And now there's a couple things I like to do. I like to set that stone right there in the groove again. I don't pull it really, really tight. I just get it there until it sticks. we're at 6.5. If I come around here, now I take that bead out of that groove and come back down, we get a 5 to a 6 on the finger, and when I pull it, it pushes that stone up, right? And I can come back this way and kind of push back down. It's already worked hard and it's going to stay in the shape that we made it. And then we were able to tighten it a little bit by doing that. So what's cool is the stone sticks out the bottom underneath here, but it also it moves up and down a little bit, and it makes that adjustable. So if your finger grows from 26 inches around in diameter to 28 inches around in diameter, we can go ahead and get like a big old rock and wrap it in some wire and make it so that it can grow with you. Now Matt's done his 30-day challenge. He's saying day 16 check-in. I got a notification for day 16 check-in. We're on day 22. And so today I made a tutorial. Ta-da! How pretty and beautiful. And oh yeah, remember how I said that the stone will turn? It does turn. And so you or your customer or your friend, if you make them aware of that, they can find the face of the stone that they like best. So there's cool little patterns in there. If I keep turning it, we got a different kind of pattern. If I keep turning it, we got no pattern at all. And that's an option, right? We like options. And that one looks cool. I like the way that pattern sits up there like that. And we are done. Dun dun dun.
District Attorney's Office, who said these most recent texts were just a small fraction of what happened. Will be arraigned tomorrow morning. David, we'll thank you when we come back tonight. That mystery illness closing dozens of